24th. Let's all rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance together.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Jenny, will you call the roll, please?
Councilman Jeff Capel.
Here.
Councilwoman Jill Cole. Here. Councilman Lisa Wonka.
Here.
Councilman Brian Gant.
Here.
Vice Mayor Promote Berry.
Here.
Councilwoman Katie Schneider. Here. Mayor Mark Serkin.
Here.
7 present.
Do I have a motion to accept tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We have a public hearing to consider an application to create a designated outdoor refreshment area within Summit Park and the neighborhoods of Summit Park. And the Assistant City Manager is going to do a title call for us.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Oops. I didn't mess that up. Okay, it feels like this has been a long time in the making. The first time we discussed Adora was at our council retreat in January of 2020. So it's been just over 2 years. And then we discussed it again, if y'all remember, when we met outside during COVID at the Hazelwood Park dedication on June 11th, 2020. And what we had been waiting for was to have enough qualifying liquor permit holders in the area that we were thinking about for Adora. And we now have enough, but also the state law changed to make it easier. And those things happen to coincide with each other. So the new state law became effective yesterday. And now we can proceed under the old rules, under the new rules. We'll go with the new ones. So first, a reminder, sorry. What is Adora? Adora is a designated outdoor refreshment area. It's a specifically defined area in which patrons of bars or restaurants can carry an alcoholic beverage in a specially designated cup to the outdoors as long as they stay within those boundaries. It was originally established in April 2017 in the ORC, and then, as I mentioned, it was revised again effective yesterday. So here is the DORA criteria. Again, this is new, but I won't confuse you all with the old rules. So it's population-based. Our population is about 13,000 residents, so we fall in the under 50,000 category. We can have up to 3 DORAs in the city of Blue Ash. Each can be no more than 320 contiguous acres. And we need at least 2 qualified permit holders per DORA. And we decided 2 years ago that Summit Park made the most logical sense for our first DORA. So why a DORA? Well, it would promote the Alive After 5 concept, which you will recall from our comprehensive plan, provide an additional amenity for visitors to Summit Park, be an economic draw for the city, and also attract additional businesses to the neighborhoods at Summit Park. The steps toward a DORA creation. So staff submitted an application to City Council, which you received in your packet this week. We also submitted notice to the newspaper about the application as well as this hearing this evening. Tonight, March 24th, is our hearing, and then we anticipate that council would vote at its next meeting on April 14th. And then we have to provide notice to the Ohio Department of Liquor Control. And I assume it probably takes about a month to be approved, but we're aiming for a June 1st launch. So next are the boundaries. You can see that staff decided to include most of Summit Park. That western boundary is the former taxiway that people use as a walking path. And then we grabbed just the current commercial elements of the neighborhood at Summit Park. We kept it out of the neighborhoods, meaning Daventry and Arabella, the new townhome development. Signage. One of the requirements is that we have to provide signage. And this is what a sign might look like. We think that we'll have about 14 to designate that boundary. This will probably be a metal sign, but other DORAs have done decals on sidewalks, whatever's most effective and appropriate for the area. We plan on using a QR code because it'll take you to a link of operating hours and rules and things like that. We didn't want to try and put all of it on the signs. And then the back side of the sign will show no alcohol beyond this point. So it'll be a double-faced sign to purpose. Please. So as I said before, we now just need 2 qualified businesses to open a DORA. We have 4, doesn't mean that they have to participate, but those are the ones that currently hold liquor licenses in the DORA area. So Brown Dog, Senate, Tahona, and Higher Gravity. We have a couple more on the way. So hours, this was a big topic amongst staff, and in reviewing other doors in the area, a recommendation that we received was to make it as broad as possible and as simple as possible, meaning do the same thing every day because people have a hard time remembering when the door starts and ends. So that's how we came up with 10 a.m. to midnight. I'm not aware of anybody serving alcohol before 10 a.m. at our restaurants. And then Summit Park closes at midnight. So we thought that would be an appropriate end time. Don't need to go beyond that. The DORA cups, we spent the most time on this topic. So we are proposing single-use recyclable plastic cups. As of a couple of months ago, these were not recyclable, and thank you, Rumpke, they now are. And we did talk about alternatives such as an aluminum cup, which is also single-use, but we have to buy them in giant quantities in order to brand them, and we weren't ready to make that expenditure. We also talked about the thicker plastic reusable cups. But as I learned from the health department, you really shouldn't be giving a cup over and getting it back unwashed. If you get a refill or a new beverage, it should be washed every time. So I had the unlucky experience of getting a really warped cup at a DORA district, and I thought this isn't a great face for the DORA, and I didn't want to do that. And also it's a burden on our restaurants to ask them to be washing all of these plastic cups all the time. So our thought is to start with these disposable, recyclable plastic cups. They cost about 19 cents each. We would then charge the restaurants 50 cents each. We're not intending to make money on this. We would just put it back into PR purposes and programming for the DORA. And then we would anticipate that they would sell them to patrons for $1 each. So there's some additional revenue there for the restaurants. And then these DORA decals, it's important for businesses to indicate whether or not they're participating in the DORA. So we have 3 different decals. So this one indicates that DORA beverages are sold at that business. Beverages welcome in that business, and that cannot be an establishment that also serves liquor. So you could not carry in a DORA beverage into a different bar or restaurant, but you could carry it into, say, a nail salon that might open at the neighborhoods at Summit Park. So that's when that decal would be used. Or a please no beverages. Again, that nail or hair salon might say, no, we don't want you to carry in your beverage here. So then they would use that decal. Trash cans and recycle bins. So we had to put together a sanitation plan for the DORA. We have 39 waste receptacles, but that's not important because the cups are recyclable. So there are also 25 recycling bins throughout the area, and those are changed every single day. Rules. So as I mentioned before, you cannot take a DORA beverage into another DORA establishment, DORA selling establishment, or another bar or restaurant, I should say. So once it's carried out, drink it in the park, recycle your cup. If you want to buy another one, go back in, buy another cup, take your beverage back out. Cannot bring outside alcohol into the DORA, so no BYOB. Don't take your drink into a restaurant or bar, always recycle your cup, follow the decals, follow the signage, don't leave the boundaries. And then of course, all of the normal rules and laws you're familiar with, don't drink and drive, no open containers in your vehicle, those sorts of things are still all at play. So that's all I have. It's a quick overview of the application. My intention tonight was to get any feedback from council. If there's anything that needs to change in the application, I'd like to address that before the council vote at the next meeting. So you can give me your feedback now. You can give it to me in the coming days if you have a different thought.
I have a question. Do restaurants, what is the process for a restaurant attorney to
So once this is in place, they can get like a DORA addition to their current liquor license through the Ohio Department of Liquor Control. And in addition to bars and restaurants currently at Summit Park and the neighborhoods at Summit Park, if we have a special event and they have a temporary liquor permit, they can also apply for a DORA designation. Or as you might have noticed in the application, we asked for the ability to suspend the DORA regulations for a period of time. So let's say for red, white, and blue ash, we have a concessionaire, and if they have the rights to be the only like seller of alcohol within the DORA area, not including inside the restaurants, obviously, then we might suspend the rules for that day.
I have a question. How many restaurants would they allow in that particular zone to have liquor license and they can be DORA?
So we have 4 currently, and you might recall, we approved a community entertainment district designation a few years ago, and that allowed for 15 additional D5J permits within the same area.
Thank you.
Question. I like the signage is simple and use the QR code. People can go get more information, but wondering if that's enough. Is there any intention to have maybe in 1 or 2 places, here's all the rules, or does that make it tricky?
We could add them to the cups. I know other DORAs have all of the rules on the back of the cups. The font tends to be really small, but happy to do that. It wouldn't cost us anything extra. And that way they're everywhere.
I have one more question. Is the single-use cup, is that typically what other DORA areas are using versus the solid plastic ones or?
So I know that the banks and City of Hamilton are using the single use, and they probably have the most active DORAs. There are some other DORAs that are using the heavier duty must be washed cups, but it's not as common.
So as I'm reading the lines, is it that pretty much all of Summit Park is included in this proposed DORA?
Except for the most western portion.
Yeah, I think that's where my hangup is. Overall, for DORA, I know a couple years ago I was more mixed on it, but when we look around to other places, they seem to work pretty well. So my previous hesitancy of having a DORA doesn't really exist anymore, but I want to make sure it's drawn right. The children's playground, the main lawn, the play areas just off the tower, those were designed to be family friendly and kid friendly. I'm not so sure that a DORA in a family friendly and kid friendly area is the right policy restriction here. The kind of climate you're trying to create in an area where you're building nightlife and is geared towards adults is going to be different than the kind of climate you want in an area where it's 7-year-olds and 10-year-olds in a playground. So what thought went into saying that those kind of areas were appropriate for a DORA?
So I think that the DORA users are going to be the same people that are using Summit Park today. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see moms enjoying a glass of wine while they watch their children play on the playground. And so that's why we included those areas. We could redraw the lines, just keep in mind that the boundary, it has to be contiguous, so we can't have any holes.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think more separation would really be a problem, because if you look at Ohio law right now, for example, if you have a concealed carry permit, you essentially can choose, do you want to drink or do you want to have your permit with you? If you go to a bar and you drink, your gun better be elsewhere. Whereas if you go to a bar and you don't drink, then your concealed carry permit is still valid. So, you know, making choices sometimes is one of those things that people have to do. So I don't think that would really be a big problem here if it helps keep the family-friendly areas of the park family-friendly. That to me is more of a positive.
Just want to make a positive remark that while walking into the park, I took a little survey with the children, the other children, and I talked about this DORA. I don't think anybody opposed it. Instead of that, they were really like it, that they can have fun going around and having a beer here and there. So that was the positive things in that. That's little small survey that I did. I see it as a positive for our economic development. Restaurants we have around in that area, frankly. You know, after the last 2 years, they've taken it on the chin. This is definitely development.
I think this does a good job of putting some rules around what's been happening anyway. I don't think anyone would be shocked to find out that there are people already consuming beverages, adult beverages, respectfully and appropriately and illegally in the market. And this just allows that behavior to be reduced.
The couple questions I had between your presentation, the big packet, and everybody else's questions covered it beautifully. So, if council doesn't have any more questions right now, I'm going to open it up for public comments. So if anybody from the public would like to come up and talk about this particular issue only, we do have hearings for citizens later, but right now it's just about the DORA. Please come up now, give us your name and address, please, and talk through the microphone. Keep comments brief in case somebody else wants to speak or several other people want to speak. Let's just be very respectful of each other. So, if anybody like to come up, this is your time.
Hi, everybody. I'm Daniel Wright. I own one of those liquor licenses there. We own the restaurant Senate over in Summit Park, and we obviously love being part of the community here. It's funny that you sort of, Jeff, mentioned some of the things that are sort of on my mind, is that the city of Blue Ash made an enormous investment into that park to make it a very family-friendly park. And somebody who owns restaurants down in OTR and, you know, frequently downtown, like, you know, I see what goes on at the banks, and I'm not saying that this is necessarily going to turn into the banks, but I do think that there's a negative connotation as well with what a DORA district is. And I think that, you know, from our aspect is that, you know, we wanted to be a part of that park because of it being a family-friendly environment. And this feels like it could be something that would negatively impact that area as well. As much as it sounds good, it's something that, you know, from my perspective, I think could be harmful in a way. I think, you know, in the same sense of talking about like the restaurants and how it's been a rough 2 years. And I don't know that this is going to financially help restaurants out as much as it will hinder more restaurants, because I know there's an intention to build a beer garden and some other things out there, which will also take sort of money away from the businesses that have suffered for the better part of the last 2 years there. So that's just one of my kind of thoughts on the whole thing. I will tell you that there's no restaurant that has trouble running in the summer there, because the summer is absolutely amazing. The park is packed constantly. There's absolutely nowhere to park, which is kind of a good thing and a bad thing in the same sense. But, you know, we have people that quite literally will be parking across the street by the bank and other things just to come in and eat. And that's without this being a DORA district. I would say parking would be another one of my main concerns when it comes to this thing, if this is something that does get passed. But, you know, for us, I think instead of kind of thinking about how do we drum more people up and get more people here throughout the summer, I don't think that's an issue. I think getting people in the winter is probably the biggest issue as a business owner in the park that we see at the park. So these are just sort of my thoughts on the whole thing. You know, we love the park, and, you know, thanks for hearing me out.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who'd like to comment on this subject?
Evening, my name is Andrew Miller. I live in the Daventry on Jared's Way. I'm also the secretary of the ROA. My opinions here are not in official capacity, as we've decided not to take an official position on the DORA, but just as a parent of 4 children who lives in that neighborhood, I've talked to lots of the parents in the neighborhood about this, and we do not have concerns about it. We're not worried about it ceasing to be a family-friendly area because of the DORA. We actually see it as a good opportunity for us to be able to take our kids to the park, and the parents can socialize a little bit while the kids are playing. And if you limit our ability to take an open container from one of the bars over to the playground, you also limit our ability to watch our children closely. So we then have to choose, we have to make the choices that were talked about between being able to kind of socialize and get a chance to spend time with the other parents in the neighborhood versus keeping as close an eye on our children as we would like to. So I do not have concerns about kind of the boundaries that have been drawn for the DORA. I like the fact that it includes some of the play areas, and plus the kids abandon the park by sundown. So anytime that there might be a concern of things getting a little bit rowdy, the parents are going to be gone, our kids are going to be in bed. So I don't share some of those concerns. And I also trust that if some of those problems do start to show up, that it can be dialed back, that we can start to tighten up that area and start to put up signs and start to deal with it. So kind of informally representing some of the parents who live very close to the park, I have not heard any concerns from people with small children who are there 4 or 5 times a week, at least. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else on DORA?
Good evening. My name is Stephen Burrington. I live on Classic Drive. Question for the city, is there a plan for, what's the enforcement plan for the DORA area? Additional police or whatever, some type of enforcement? And then second question to the earlier comment, is there parking on the horizon for the park? Because the summer, that is a challenge. Parking in the summer, if this makes it more attractive, where are those cars going to go? Thank you.
I would answer. Got it. Okay. Anyone else? Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing. Oh, got it? Yes. Yeah, it's unclosed then.
I'm just concerned again about mixing alcohol with kids. I have a handicapped daughter, and my sitter is really afraid of that, adding the alcohol to, you know, a nice park family situation like the Summit Park is. She won't go there. That's just it. It's a real turnoff for her. It's a turnoff for me too. I mean, I don't drink, but still I have friends that do. And it just is not, you know, it's not the family kind of thing. We gotta be drinking a glass of wine and watching their kids and wow, like that. That really concerns me because let's say I had some drinks before they came to the park. They got the DORA cup now. Wow. All right. Everything's fine. No, it's not. Who's going to enforce all these laws? You know, with the DORA cup, are we going to have enough, you know, plainclothes police or whatever, you know, walking around, or how is that going to be how is that going to be handled? You know, to see that everything is right, you know, the way we want it to be. That really concerns me, especially with little kids. And I also, again, I have a handicapped daughter. So it just puts a sort of bad taste in my mouth. I mean, I can see where we have, you know, certain occasions where we allow alcohol, but then this is just, it just seems like a free-for-all kind of thing. I just don't like it. Really does bother me, you know. And I want to ask council, who's going to enforce this, you know?
So is your name and address?
Oh, yeah. My name is Mark Levy, and I live at the 5717 Sandstone Court. And I've lived in Blue Ash for about, I don't know, 32, 35 years, something like that. It's a great city. And that park is wonderful. But I'm really concerned about people walking around, people wandering by the homes too that are built there. It just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. So I'm just wondering who's going to enforce this? You know, we need a bigger police force, you know, to handle this. Do we have the DORA police? I don't know. Can somebody tell me?
Yeah, the police are aware that they may have to adjust their routes or their patrol or staff.
Yeah.
But they're totally able to, their budgets allows it, so it has to be taken care of.
You know,
And if there are problems, as we brought up before, adjustments can be made to deal with any problems that we would have in the future.
Yeah, because I sort of had the same kind of feelings that Jeff had, previously that you said you had, but okay, all right, thank you.
Anything else want to talk about Dora?
Hello, my name is Karen Beeler, and I'm on Centennial here in Blue Ash. Kind of sharing what a lot of others have spoken about, a concern of the appropriateness of that very open allowance of the alcohol in the children-friendly areas. My son's grown, but I would not have been comfortable. It would have pushed me away from those kind of areas with my son. Question if there's been any discussion about any interaction of this allowance of the alcohol with the tower and the improved safety measures that are already being taken there and what the potential is. And even in things like cups or drinks being spilled or thrown from the heights. A question, it said that there were allowable of 3 in a city. I brought up the question wondering if Dora is a potential for the blue development that's coming up. And I also did, when I noticed the hours on the application from the 10 to midnight, in keeping of the initiative of the Alive After 5, I was kind of wondering why Alive After 5 starts at 10 a.m. And that maybe if that hour was shifted a little bit later, that might have less interference with those hours that the families are really using the park, maybe more. And so questioning those hours and maybe it's a little bit early, not that there's probably going to be a lot of problems at 10 a.m. with excessive drinking or inappropriate actions and behavior, but it was the question that came to my mind with it. So those were my 4 thoughts on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else want to speak about Dora? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. Any other questions from council? Mr. Walls has some comments.
Just real quick, because I know some people here in the public are normally about reaching this and but since they're making a comment. The size can be reduced and changed, as Kelly said, you could certainly start putting in that problem, reduce it. But there's a real practical problem with drawing squiggly lines in terms of she says it has to be contiguous, but to try and carve out that, I can just start having enforcement problems. Well, I can go here, I can't go there, especially since some of the potential vendors will be on one side, some will be on the other side of the playground. They literally will have to kind of skirt around or something like that. So,
Holes, correct? So it's got to be contiguous. If that means
yeah, so it's going to be really odd. So we can continue looking at that. Like, I think it would be tough for you to achieve a carve out, maybe able to reduce it down from all the way west or something like that. It'd be tough to achieve that. I've heard a couple of comments about concern with play areas, what have you, as Kelly indicating, I think even Councilman intimated, there may be some respectful beverage consumption anyways going on, and I don't think this is the type of area that's going to attract like the banks or OTR. I think families that are out there now are probably the ones that will. I can't envision my 20-some-year-old kids going there on a bar, so to speak, on a Friday night or something like that. So, but be that as it may, there is constantly policing issues. All kinds of things from time to time. Police has vetted this out substantially with Kelly. They're prepared for it. No more than simply onslaught of people coming in and all kinds of fender vendors in the parking lot, stolen purses and what have you. So, we're prepared for that. And then last, I heard some comments about parking, and yes, we made a conscious decision for years. We are adding another area of parking, but we said, once it's a park, not a Walmart parking lot. So we knew we were always going to get pressure during peak time for that, and that's continued to be something we'll have to. How much asphalt do we want versus how much green space? And so we'll continue to try to find that balance. But did you have anything else to add?
I'll just add that the program that staff is proposing, we crafted that based on lots of feedback from other DORA operators. And I'll cite Hamilton, they just continue to grow and grow and grow theirs, including growing and growing and growing the hours. They've had no issues. It's been incredibly positive. And so their recommendation to us was, why not just start out this way rather than have to continue to adjust to meet what ends up being consumer demand. So that drove a lot of it. We've talked to Loveland, we've talked to Montgomery, City of Cincinnati. Again, very, very positive response from those communities.
I just want to make sure that our tower is redesigned, that the observation that we're talking about before we open up for DORA. Just a statement that try not to be open before the redesign of our visual tower.
We lost some parking because of Fake Duke also an issue with pulling out of there. Are we able to even use that area? They've still got some debris there, don't they? They're totally done. Yeah. The parking, I get what you're saying, but I mean, I've been down to OTR, and to me, that parking is a nightmare compared to walking 2 minutes from the west side. I've not been to the park where the spots are all full. Is it a 2-minute walk to Senate? Yeah, it is sometimes. It's busy, but you're probably so busy that hopefully you're happy that night anyway. So your customers have to walk for a couple minutes. So, and it's free too. So that's all I have. So
We are reversing parking lot. Nice.
absolutely.
Legislation, so.
Yes.
Just one more question.
We closed the public portion, but you can come up during the citizens in a few minutes. Okay.
I asked, since the tower came up, are you allowed on the elevator with the door and up? Are you allowed to go up with that? I think I saw the banks, they got signed not allowed on the elevator. Is that the case?
Okay. Let's move on. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of March 10th, 2022?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Any communications to the council?
We have 2 liquor license requests tonight, ironically. One is a new request, and it's from Chick and Cone Summit, doing business as Chick and Cone. And then that is a transfer to Elegant Fair Catering, doing business as Gatherings of Blue Ash Circle. This is coming from the lanes. Both of these have been reviewed by the police, and they have no issue.
Thank you. From outside agencies. Seeing none, we're going to move to hear from citizens. If you wish to speak, please come up and approach the mic and state your name and address. If you have any materials to pass out, please give them directly to Jamie, the clerk of council. Please keep your comments as brief as possible to allow others a chance to be heard. Hearings from citizens is for us to listen to you and your neighbors. It's very unlikely we'll make any remarks immediately after you speak. Sometimes during miscellaneous business, we do revisit an issue brought forward. The clerk of council will notify you when 3 minutes have passed, and at that point, please wrap up your presentation. So would anybody like to talk on any subject? Mark?
My name is Raj Kapal. I'm a farmer Colerain Township trustee. I'm amazed by the economic development is going on in Blue Ash, and also one of the greatest places to live in Hamilton County. And appreciate all the great work this council is doing to achieve that goal. I'm a candidate for the Hamilton County Clerk of Courts. My goal is to provide utmost safety for our community and make the Clerk of Courts most user-friendly and access to for filing. And I want to closely work with the law enforcement agencies in Hamilton County to provide the better, safer community in Hamilton County. And thank you for all the great works you guys doing for this city, Blue Ash. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Peter Nord and I live in Kent Ridge Lake. And I wanted to address a few comments about the library. Not necessarily the library that's in Blue Ash, but the library in general. I think that the library is often viewed as a storage place for books. And since books are now available online, we hardly need any physical space for the library. And I think it behooves all of you to go take a look at what's happening in Deer Park, where the largest, most used branch in the Cincinnati Public Library now exists. The Deer Park Library a year ago in February had 3,000 people come. Make a guess how many came this past February? 11,000. The library is not just a repository for books. It is an economic development engine. And that if you want to have economic development with stores, businesses, having a public library branch of significant size is going to be a very positive development to bring customers to places where they may not come. And I think particularly of the development that's proposed for Kenwood and Cooper, when you have a bunch of stores there that are not necessarily major stores, but sellers of Woofy Wowzers and Foxtails, having an additional 11,000 or better people in a Blue Ash library would be an economic benefit that you can't buy. And the library offers any number of additional services besides books. One of the things that the Deer Park Library has noticed is that their study rooms are almost always full. Their public meeting rooms are almost always full. Some of the libraries offer meals to children. The Deer Park Library neighborhood falls in that category where they can provide, in the past year, meals for children. Our library in Blue Ash does not fall in that category, but the library in Blue Ash has nutritious snacks available. And there are children who come, who know the librarians, who know that those snacks are there, and say that they're hungry.
We're at 3 minutes.
And that's all I have to say. And it serves you good purpose to find out what is happening in Deer Park and how the heck they managed it. And Blue Ash treats it like it's an appendix.
Thank you. Anybody else? We're gonna move on to committee reports, finance and administration. Councilperson Laser Warren, Chairman.
First off, I have a motion authorizing the sale of real property at 11490 Rooms Road with no further requirement to solicit additional bids. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposing? 7. Next, I have an ordinance. Jamie, please read ordinance number 2022-03 by title only.
Authorizing the city manager to negotiate and thereafter enter into a contract for the sale of city-owned real property at 11490 Blooms Road, parcels 612-02-000004 and 612-02-000078, and declaring an emergency.
Move to suspend the rules of council requiring a second reading.
Second.
Jamie, please call roll.
Councilwoman Cole? Yes. Councilman Gann?
Yes.
Councilwoman Schneider?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Javari?
Yes.
Councilman Capell?
No.
Councilman Zerwanka?
Yes.
Mayor Serpen?
Yes.
6 yeses, 1 no.
Move to adopt ordinance number 2022-03.
Second.
Any discussion?
I'd like to say, as somebody who has spent countless hours, I think, at Grooms, oftentimes bringing a younger sibling to the park. We occasionally try to get to this park, but the way to get there from inside the park is to go past the softball fields. And we were the whole time looking behind us to see whether the men's softball league was going to drill one to right field on us. I don't think it's a particular loss in that way. I know we're tight over there at Grooms. I'd love to see a playground structure if we could find one safely, but this facility just wasn't used very well. And I'm excited for the small business that wants to purchase this. I understand that part of the reason for declaring an emergency moving quickly for this is so that they can perhaps get this summer season in. And so I'm supporting it. I'm also very excited. I heard that we might be making some changes to the codified ordinances so that we can do this by resolution and therefore not have to declare an emergency in the future. I'd rather not declare emergencies when we didn't have to. So that's all I have to say.
Okay. Or specifically to outdoor futsal.
Is it like mini soccer, if I remember?
They got me on.
It looks like soccer, like is it for like us old people, when they don't have to run too much, or how's it work?
All smaller, it's all bigger, it's lots of footwork instead of lots of running. Less running.
That's right.
It's a smaller
pickleball for,
Some items I have, and let's keep in mind the legislation on the table is about whether we're selling the property. I was trying to get I am in favor of selling off property that we own and really don't need. It just doesn't make any sense to continue to hold it, but I also want to make sure that that when we're selling assets, we're getting what we should be getting out of it. And I was trying to develop some, a sense of how much this property was really worth. And unfortunately, as I found the hard way, when you try to find, when you go online and try to search what land is worth, there's no Zillow, there's no Trulio. About all you can look at is, or at least that I was able to find, was just whatever is on the Hampton County Auditor's site. And then the question becomes, is an assessment from 2020 even, how accurate is that in 2022 or at any other time? So one question that I have is, did we get a sense or try to get a sense of establishing how much this property would be worth on the open market?
We discussed that, we specifically discussed that, and they referred to that conversation. And the challenge was, this is a very isolated site, so you can't do a per square foot price of your costs. When we said this before, because it's not really usable for any adjacent use like this. It's practically how big it is, 10 to an acre or something like that. In landlocked, practically speaking. So the only people that would be interested is this one, or next to this is a Duke power station. So if they're interested in expanding the power transfer station. So just its value is what we were able to come up with when talking to the company. We certainly wanted to try more, but it's just not a real practical discussion.
Well, still, anytime you sell property, you have to find some way of determining what it's worth. I know the very last part of my parents' estate that my brother and I had not been able to deal with was 2 residential lots unbuilt, so it's just 2 pieces of property. And still, before you sell, you want to figure out, okay, how much is this worth to make sure we get the right price for it. Did we ever get an appraisal?
I think I'm guessing now is what the market will bear, considering the fact that it's a different junkyard. You know, that's not that price for a junkyard.
I think that kind of leads into the next point. So we didn't get an appraisal, not a whole lot of other ways to figure out how much it's worth. But then in the legislation and in the prior motion, we then said no further requirement to solicit bids. That would have been perhaps the best way to figure out what property is worth, is to put it on the open market, advertise it and open it up for bids. That's definitely a surefire way of knowing how much something is worth, but we've waived that. We've only, as far as I can tell, we've only talked to one person. And then another issue that I'm finding in the ordinance is there's no dollar amount in the ordinance. The way it reads, we can sell the thing for $1 and it would be legal. So when I'm adding all these things together, I'm not sure regarding this asset the way we should be.
I guess I thought we had this conversation. I know we had this conversation, so to bring this up as though this is all new is a bit surprising. Let me just try
We
to
have a conversation about necessarily the answers to the questions I have.
let me just try to de-escalate this. This is a very small piece of property. You're welcome to put it on the bid and all that. It just isn't worth the time. You're not talking hundreds of acres. It's not a residential use. It's, I think you're making a mountain out of a hole. I'm a little bit confused by this because I thought when we had this discussion, there was, yeah, sure, this is a nice little thing, not a big deal. This isn't a stadium in downtown. So I'm at a loss with this question because we do that kind of due diligence when it is a substantial project, a certain amount of land and what have you. In fact, we're selling another piece and we are taking the bid. We determined that this is just still inconsequential, but I'm surprised we're spending this much time on it.
I'm sorry you feel that way because I don't think it's making a mountain out of a molehill to act like a council member and try to ask whether we're getting enough money that we should be for an asset, and especially the way that the legislation has been written. I think these are fair questions to ask.
Just to finish this up, I think that we discussed the fact that this is one of dozens of properties the city owns that are not usable, that are not really sellable. We are not going to have to take care of the property anymore, which is going to save us money. And we are doing something to help a business have a really nice activity for adults and children, which in effect is a playground. So none of this will surprise you because we all talked about this in executive session before this was brought forward.
I think it's a win-win for both sides, we can help the companies expand and we don't have to take care of a property that has been on the books for years.
They've made an offer of $55,000 for it.
Which we also discussed in executive session. So you need that.
Yes, discussed, which is different from having questions answered.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, Jamie, please call the roll.
Vice Mayor Javari?
Yes.
Councilman Capell?
No.
Councilman Zerwanka?
Yes.
Councilwoman Cole?
Yes.
Councilman Gap?
Yes.
Councilwoman Schneider?
Yes.
Mayor Serpen?
Yes.
6 yeses, 1 no.
Thank you. Next, Jamie, please read resolution number 2022-15 by title only.
Providing for amendments within the 2022 annual appropriation resolution number 2021-64.
Move to adopt resolution number 2022-15.
Second.
Any discussion? Basically, what this is covering is, well, the parking lot over at the park, where Duke Energy did some damage, so they're kicking in money for it, and we're also kicking in money to get the parking lot enlarged and improved. And also there's a fix of the whirlpool over at the rec center and a couple other budget adjustments. So, any other discussion? Seeing none, Jamie, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilman Capell?
Yes.
Councilman Gap?
Yes.
Councilman Zerwanka?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Javari?
Yes.
Councilwoman Cole? Yes. Mayor Serpen?
Yes.
7 yeses.
Thank you. Jamie, please read resolution number 2022-16 by title only.
A resolution to levy special assessments on real property for the cost of demolition of a vacant structure unfit for occupancy and the removal of junk from the exterior property area pursuant to chapter 1711 of the Blue Ash Code ordinances and ORC 715.261.
Move to adopt resolution number 2022-16.
Second.
Any discussion? This is basically where we're building back and assessing on problem properties that we have for the city. Any questions? Seeing none, can we please call the roll?
Councilman Capell?
Yes.
Councilwoman Cole? Yes. Councilman Zerwanka?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Javari?
Yes.
Councilman Gap?
Yes.
Councilwoman Schneider?
Yes.
Mayor Serpen?
Yes.
7 yeses.
Jamie, please read resolution number 2022-17 by title.
Providing for the appointment of Steve Mercy as an alternate member to the Planning Commission for the City of Blue Ash.
Move to adopt resolution number 2022-17.
Second.
Discussion?
He's a good guy and very well qualified. That's all.
Yes, sir. Would you like to do the honors? Yeah. Jamie, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Schneider?
Yes.
Councilwoman Cole? Yes. Councilman Capell?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Javari?
Yes.
Councilman Gap?
Yes.
Councilman Zerwanka?
Yes.
Mayor Serpen?
Yes.
7 yeses.
Come up and let me swear you in. Make you make all kind of promises that you'll regret. One over here will come up here. Very good. Get you on camera for your family. You raise your right hand and repeat after me. I solemnly affirm. I solemnly affirm. That I will support. That I will support. The constitutions of the United States. The constitutions of the United States. And the state of Ohio. And the state of Ohio. And the charter and ordinances. And the charter and ordinances. Of the city of Blue Ash. The city of Blue Ash. And will faithfully. And will faithfully. Honestly. Honestly. And impartially. And impartially. Discharge the duties. Discharge the duties. Of planning commission member. Of planning commission member. Upon which I am about to enter. Upon which I am about to enter. Thank you very much. Thank you. Congratulations. Steve. Thank you so much. And as we always say, it is so nice to have citizens who volunteer to serve on our boards and commissions. They are able to give expertise in different areas and think of and bring up problems and comments and suggestions that we oftentimes really appreciate. And thank you very much for volunteering. So,
Thank you.
One more here. Jamie, please read resolution number 2022-18 by title.
Resolution authorizing participation in Region 2 governance structure under the One Ohio Memorandum of Understanding.
Move to adopt resolution number 2022-18.
Second.
Any discussion? Basically, this is in regards to the opioid settlement with the state and federal government. And it's breaking into different segments. And Counselor, could you elaborate a little bit on the break?
No, yeah, the settlement requires that you break into different regions and how you distribute the money. So it's just a perfunctory, frankly, resolution passed by all the other jurisdictions to set up will be the committee to provide a funding mechanism.
Very good. Any questions or concerns? Seeing none, Jamie, please call the roll.
Councilman Capell?
Yes.
Councilwoman Cole? Yes. Councilman Zerwanka?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Javari?
Yes.
Councilman Gap?
Yes.
Councilwoman Schneider?
Yes.
Mayor Serpen?
Yes.
7 yeses.
all I have there. Thank you. We're going to move to Parks and Recreation Committee, Councilperson Schneider.
Thank you. Jamie, could you please read resolution number 2022-19 by title only?
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract for the 2022 City of Blue Ash mowing services for the unit prices as shown on the attached bid summary.
Move to adopt resolution number 2022-19.
Second.
So this resolution, as it says, it's a contract for mowing services. We've been talking about the issues I think for maybe the past year or so, with labor shortages and whatnot, and it's now, this is for mowing 28 properties. I think the net is what 60,000 after you move around, you know, what we already use for contract, and then some of the savings that we'll see from salaries from the labor we don't have. Do you have anything else to add, Brian?
Not unless there's specific questions. Thanks, Kate.
Any discussion? Jamie, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Cole? Yes. Councilman Gap?
Yes.
Councilman Capell?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Javari?
Yes.
Councilman Zerwanka?
Yes.
Councilwoman Schneider?
Yes.
Mayor Serpen?
Yes.
7 yeses.
Okay, we're going to move into miscellaneous business. David, you want to start off? Wow. Kelly?
Stop touching that. I just wanted to remind everybody that our Economic Development Director, Neil Hensley, is retiring as of next Friday, April 1st. So if you have time to stop by his farewell gathering on Thursday, it is from 2:30 until 4. I'm sure he would love to see you. And Mayor, if you're not available, PJ, I have a proclamation for you to read. So it's a long one. Are you heading out?
Well, yes, because the flight was canceled, so now we have to drive.
Oh, sorry. PJ, it's in really small font. Bring your glasses.
Kelly, is it here?
Yeah, it'll be the best conference.
Is there Latin for et cetera?
Whereas, there's like 400 whereas. They do it just to mess with me. It doesn't work. No, yeah, exactly. Jules?
Nothing tonight.
Sherry? Ryan Cruz?
Just real quick, just a couple updates on some great events that Parks and Rec has coming up on April 9th, from 1 to 4, which is a Saturday. We are finally having the grand reopening of the Hunt House to the public, so we're looking forward to that. You guys got a chance to see the Hunt House not too long ago, but we'll have the opportunity to take the public through, show a little bit of the renovations, and very thankful to have the house back open to the public again. And then April 23rd, we have a great partnership with Cincinnati Earth Day Coalition. And our Earth Day event is taking place at Summit Park. I think that's April 23rd. That's a great one. We usually get about 5,000 or 7,000 people out there for that one, so it should be awesome. And then while I got the mic, I'm going to thank Kelly for a second for all of her tireless work on the DORA. She's put a ton of effort into that, and I appreciate it from a Parks and Rec perspective, because without her, it probably would have been me. And I just wanted to thank her for that, and she did a great job, and that's been very organized. Appreciate it.
Brian, just a reminder, make sure you fill in those 8-inch divots that my car caused the last time that my car was in that lot.
That's
Anybody else
in
needs
the
to-
contract, it's already taken care of.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Nothing tonight, Mayor.
Counselor?
Nothing, thank you, Mayor.
Jill?
One thing, I was really excited to see the line of the summer concerts come out. It's not only great to think of getting back to normal, it's also great being summer soon. So looking forward to that. That's all, Mayor.
Jeff?
Gonna end up having no older new business. I was looking to possibly do something, but I think it's better if we do it at a future, less busy meeting. So all I'll have to say is I appreciate the number of people who came and addressed us tonight on various issues. The one that we heard more comments on was the DORA, and I definitely appreciate the diversity of comments we had on that. And I know I'm definitely going to keep an open mind as we head into the next meeting with it, and do the best we can to get the best piece of legislation that we can pass. That's all. Thanks.
Nothing too much. Katie?
Also, just want to say thanks for everybody coming out, and sharing concerns and support for the DORA. I'm hearing from you. Congratulate you, Steve. Thanks for your service. And then again, congratulations to Neil. Celebrating the next Thursday.
Several things. Thank you for everybody who came out and spoke to us tonight. It's important for us to hear from you. Mrs. Buller, I think you had the best line of the night. Why does a lot after 5 have to start at 10 in the morning? That's a well put perspective there. So thank you for that. As we're talking about the DORA, my vision of it, whether this is real or not, is that it's not going to be the boozy place that there's bars everywhere. If that were the case, that would be a problem for me. And I don't think that's what we're going for. And so I try to separate that from what we're doing. I would expect there to be strict enforcement. And as Kelly said, this adopting a DORA doesn't allow someone to be publicly intoxicated or behaving badly. Those aren't available. And I don't know where it's available online, but as part of the application package, there is a section about security and how the police are going to deal with that and role of the park staff that's there the whole time. So I think that's great as well. The last thing I wanted to do is thank the folks from our planning and zoning department. The work to get the special assessments done and to clean up those problem properties is significant, and it's not fun, and it's probably adversarial, and it's all behind the scenes, but all the neighbors appreciate that work, and so I wanted to send a special thanks to them for their work.
Vice Mayor Javert. I usually remember you. You're quiet.
Just a few comments. I just wanted to make sure and just wanted to tell that US constituents, they come out and show their interest and their expressions about the DORA. I wish more and more people start coming, taking part in this kind of issues. And thank you for all people coming here. The second thing, Steve Ramsey, welcome to Bali and congratulations for that.
Thanks. Two quick things. I do appreciate all the DORA comments. I know our city administration, our police department, and city council is not going to allow it to get out of control in any way, shape, or form if it does get passed. It will be dealt with appropriate level of enforcement, and nothing we do is set in stone. If things don't work out, adjustments can always be made. I know this group, and I know it will be done immediately. So that's one thing. I did have a quick conversation with the Sycamore School Superintendent, and they are going to do a little educational opportunity about traffic safety. So they thought that this was something that they should deal with an issue or two in the last couple months. So kids are on their phone, crossing streets, the kids are engaged with each other, and they realize it's springtime, the kids are getting a little, what do you call, cabin fever, and they're not quite paying attention. So they had promised they would get on that, so.
Can we do adult education as well?
Oh, that's even worse. The texting while you're driving, that's a whole other story. So.
But like what I've learned too is, there's a difference between just like regular walking and texting, but if you just can put it down at the key moments, like when you're stepping onto a curb or off a curb or crossing the street, that's when you put your phone away.
Or going through a roundabout.
Yeah. Well, I actually watched the junior high dismissed a couple weeks ago. It was a beautiful day, it was warm, so a lot of kids were walking home, and it's like a ballet. I mean, they handle it so well. Within 14 minutes, everything's from start to finish done. But I did see the kids like this, crossing the streets, and I did see them engaged with each other too much and expecting the people in front of them to be watching. Those people were on their phones, so it didn't work real well. So anyway,
So the schools are great.
they're gonna do some type of educational, they're gonna take the opportunity with the kids. Yeah, the district wide. Yeah. And he did not elaborate exactly what they plan on doing, but they're gonna wake the kids up a little bit that cars weigh 3,000 pounds and you weigh 80. So. Anyway, we're gonna move into executive session for personnel matters to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official. Do I have a motion to move into executive session? Second. Jamie, will you please call the roll?
Councilman Capell?
Yes.
Councilwoman Nicole? Yes. Councilman Zerwanka?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Javari?
Yes.
Councilman Gao?